You are listening to That Big CEO Energy, where we talk all things business, life, marriage, and push you to a new edge of discovering what that big CEO energy means for you. Listen, I understand that we have barriers that we carry from when we were once employees, and those have impacted us as we continue to build our businesses. I'm here to walk alongside you and give you encouragement through interviews with friends and other women in business who have broken down those barriers and paved their own way. Tune in with me as we uncover some of the unconscious things that we do that keep us from building that big CEO energy we've always dreamed about. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You are listening to That Big CEO Energy. And today we are going to talk a little bit about becoming that big CEO in your life and in your business, and using that big energy to help you work towards your goals. So I first wanted to kind of uncover what my past experience has been working for CEOs and sort of auditing those in my life that were just embracing some things that I couldn't roll with. And so I'll take you back to when I graduated college. I found myself in the staffing industry, and these people were really lovely. I had a wonderful experience working with the company that I was a part of. Now, what I would say is the CEO of that company was a little bit different. He was just a little too rah-rah. And what I mean by that is he would just sort of make you feel like no matter what you did, it was just always wrong. And so there wasn't a lot of coaching. There wasn't a lot of, true leadership that had gone down. And so it felt a lot like I was living in the big old boys club. So moving on from that position, and I'll just preface this by saying that a lot of my early career was chasing the ladder, trying to climb the ladder, trying to get to a place where I was recognized as, a leader in my industry. And so I had that complex working for me. But anyway, the company that I moved on to, my dad had died when I was working there. And I remember not feeling any type of empathy. And as a matter of fact, this man that I worked for, after about 5 days, he was like, "When are you coming back to work?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm grieving. And my work performance after that was not great, mainly because I felt like I was being tasked with mentally exerting my energy that I didn't have available, that I was struggling, right, to find how to even show up in the world, let alone do my job properly. And I also felt like I couldn't have a conversation with him because it would just be blown off. There was no empathy. And so I really started to understand that this type of individual I was not willing to work for. Ultimately, because I couldn't get behind that, I lost my job from there. And it was really sad because, again, I was chasing my performance. I was chasing, as a young person does, chasing the corporate ladder. And I found myself yet again in another staffing community. And this one seemed to be a little bit better. But the problem is there that when you work for CEOs that have a different picture that is painted and it is marked with meeting numbers instead of meeting the employees where they are at, it seems to get kind of jumbled, right? And there isn't clarity, there isn't expectations that are set up, And yet you're consistently matched up against a system or a numbers track. And I totally understand. I don't want to discount that I don't understand, because I do. I do understand the value in working against numbers, right? That is how you meet your financial goals. So that is something that I totally understand. However, what I would say is if that's the only conversation that you are having with your employees is how come they're not doing enough to help you reach the financial goals of the business, and what aren't they doing better? You're doing it all wrong. You are not encouraging the empowerment of your employees to own the parts of the business that they help drive, right? So we'll just take an analyst, for example. If you are saying to the analyst, well, your research is not helping me drive business, and your contributions outside of, your normal day-to-day aren't yielding enough revenue, and why aren't you doing more? Do you see how abrasive that is? Instead of empowering people to be a leader of the organization, empowering people to lead the efforts that they are a part of, encouraging them to fail, right? Creating an environment where they feel like, yes, I can give this a go. I can present it to leadership, the CEO, whoever they are, whoever their upline is. And it might not be right. It might be way out of the ballpark thinking, but I know that the leadership is going to look at this and pull out the parts and pieces that are really, really well, help me understand what I'm missing so that we can collaborate and be together to move the needle of the business forward. Feeling like that is a completely different situation than showing up every day and feeling like no matter what you do, it's not good enough. You always have to check with, who your leadership is before you do anything, because you feel like no matter what you do, they always have something negative to say. Not only does it create a terrible environment for that employee, but it creates a terrible environment for you because you always feel like you have to be chasing your people to do what they should be doing. You have to provide your feedback on every little thing, and you get burnt out as the CEO, as the leadership of your business or your area of business. And so it doesn't make sense for anyone to come at it from a lens of, what are you doing to move the needle of the business forward? And if you're not doing that, how come? Reframing it in such a way where it's, we have this goal to meet. I would love it if you would help in this area of business, if you have time to help in this area of business, and I'm empowering you to be the leadership in your area of business and what I've hired you for. And so let's collaborate. Let's get with each other and figure out, what do you have that you excel in? What are the parts that you may need my coaching on? And then how can we together move the needle of the business forward? I never, in all of my life working, I never have experienced that. And I feel like it is because corporations are so watched and businesses are so watched on what they're doing in the revenue space that oftentimes the people that work for them suffer. They suffer because they come into the business with the hopes and dreams that they are going to get fed, not just by a paycheck, but they're going to get fed personally by having coaching. And we often set ourselves up that when we're having conversations with people, it is, yes, so we have this trajectory and we have this plan of you going through, your career with these expectations, and we're going to, help you along the way, and we're going to do the things. But what happens is sometimes an organization either runs really, really lean to where they don't have time to do that. And so they have to figure out how can they pivot other people in their business to be able to free up you as a CEO or you as a leader so that you can provide coaching. Or B, they get so wrapped up in what they are chasing and the dollar amount and hitting X amount of dollars through the year that everybody is in grind mode and everybody is pushing, and it's all met with the bottom line. And that creates an environment where people show up, they do their job, and they go home. Because number one, that's what's expected of them, because that's what's going to help them reach the bottom line. Or they don't have time because, again, they're running lean. And so how can you, as a CEO and a leader in your business, figure out the happy medium? Because work needs to get done, right? Bottom line needs to be met. But in the middle is where thriving is. In the middle is where people are learning and people are growing. Because I'll tell you, when you set your business up in such a way where people from inside the organization are able to progress and move forward, and you're backfilling the lower end of the positions, number one, it's a cost saver. Number two, you create an environment where people strive for more. They want to do more. They want to show up. They know that there are opportunities ahead of them. And by in turn, you creating a coaching space where you're providing mentorship and helping those employees not feel like they're just pieces of shit and just there to serve your bottom line, you create a business that has an opportunity for growth in all different areas. So circling back to sort of my experience working for a CEO, it was just really sad that at every turn I had found CEOs, leadership in business that were chasing the bottom line, were making sure that the status quo was being met. And what I needed to survive was a CEO that was mindful and thoughtful about every turn of their business. So some things to start sort of taking note of when you're around these types of CEOs is, what does their foresight look like? Are they able to think outside of the box? Are they spending time weighing the pros and cons, either audibly or behind closed doors? And are they keeping abreast of certain developments that are happening within the company? Because I think that when we start to take charge of our life, so being that big CEO in our life and in our business, we have to be able to have the foresight to continue to think outside of the box, to spend time weighing the pros and cons so that we're not making knee-jerk reactions. We're keeping abreast of new developments so that we can, again, understand and think outside the box to continue to move the needle of the business forward. But we also need to be adaptable. And changing the mindset to having an open mind and embracing the challenges really helps us to understand what is lacking, what is needed from us, and then build scenarios to continue to prepare us for the changes and continue to push ourselves to improvise. I think that's one of the big things to help your people understand is improvising. If they can fly by the seat of their pants in some scenarios and change a certain situation by changing their mindset and push themselves to improvise in order to get a different outcome, then that is growth. And so when we think about that in our personal life and our professional life, where can we do that? right? Where can we improvise? Where can we challenge ourselves to change our mindset, to be an open-minded person and embrace the challenges in our business and our life in order to build these scenarios and prepare us for the change? But with that comes transparency. And I found that working in a CEO environment, and sometimes in my own life as being a CEO of my own life, I wasn't being transparent enough. I wasn't showing up so authentically that I would say to people, this doesn't fit with me. This is not jiving with me because of X, Y, and Z. And I found a lack of prioritizing and delivering on commitments because I was feeling like I was always missing something. I always had to say yes. I always had to make it a point to sacrifice my well-being and who I was as an employee, as an individual, so that other people could thrive. And I wasn't thinking beforehand of how is this going to impact me as a person? How is this going to impact my family? And ultimately, how is this going to impact my career? Because once we start thinking about those things and we start putting pen to paper and actually physically writing out, how does this impact me? And it could be something very small that we're asked to do. We could be something it could be something large that we're asked to do. On both ends of the spectrum, coming to the paper and saying, what is the pros and cons of this? Is this living in a modality of my life that sets me up to be able to be transparent and to be able to thrive and to be able to think outside of the box and, have an open mind? And if the resounding answer is no, and it's consistently a no, that's a cause for you to say, where in my life, where in my business, where in, if I'm working for someone, where in my company can I make adjustments? And sometimes that's leaving things behind. Sometimes that's moving on to another career. It's just all a personal experience for you. But when you are having big CEO energy in your life, and owning who you are as a person, owning who you are as an employee, because even though you have a CEO that you report to, you are in charge of your position in that company. You are in charge of yourself. You are in charge of the work that you put out. And so when we're doing this, we often need to think about how can we build a team very carefully that helps us get to the next level. And so for some of us, right? Some of us, it's our personal life. Yes, we can still build a team. If you have a spouse, it's getting him or her on board with, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And I would really love it if you could take ownership in this part of this. It would really help us out. Delegating to either your children or someone who has offered help, say yes, please. When someone offers help and says, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know, take them up on that. I know it's another, I have a really hard time with the saying, if you need anything, let me know. Okay, that tells me nothing on how you can help me. But what I would say is most of the time that language is kind of set up in the same way in our culture of, hey, how are you doing? How are you today? It rolls off the tongue as a salutation, right? So when we notice that someone is in distress, when we notice that, they might be feeling a little down, it is naturally an instinct for us to come back and say, if you ever need anything, let me know. Well, by golly, you call them. Whoever has said, if you need anything, let me know, you take them up on it. And you want to know why? Not just because it's, oh, you told me, so I'm taking you up on it, but because they probably really meant it. And they probably in that moment didn't know how to help. And so they lean on you to say, I need help. Do you know of anyone that could come and mow my lawn today or tomorrow or this week? Would you have availability to, pick up Johnny from daycare for me? I'm super stressed and I know it's on your way home. Would you have an opportunity to do that? Let people help you. We are no longer part of a society that is like, oh, you must do it all because that's how you conquer the world. That is not the part of society that you need to be living in. That is not the part of society that is thriving, does not create empathy, that does not create anything other than I need to shut down, stay in my lane, grind as hard as I possibly can, and that is just going to be that. And then if I'm suffering in silence, that's totally fine. And it's not fine. I'm here to tell you that it's not fine. And if you need a cheerleader right in this moment to say to you, ask for help, and it is okay to ask for help, this is your sign. And you have showed up in the right place. So, being a big CEO in your life, in your business, if you're working a 9 to 5 or whatever you're doing, requires you to identify the right person to speak to that will listen well and encourages you to listen well and creates an environment where you can create a team of like-minded people that borrow off of each other and know that they are there to help one another. But I think ultimately, when we are creating these types of environments, and if you have employees that work underneath of you, you have to be mindful that you have to put the human factor first. These are real people with real lives that have real issues. And if you are chasing a bottom line, you will always have people that show up with a heartbeat and not show up with a serving heart. I can fill a company full of jobs that have a heartbeat. That is no problem. But to find people that are really passionate about the work that they do, to find people that are willing to sacrifice their time into a company because they really believe in the mission, that's hard to find. And it's hard to find because they have oftentimes lived in environments and worked in environments that their time is not valued, their work is not valued, and they are not seen as a thought partner in their own zone of genius, but instead just a worker. And so one of the other parts of being a CEO is asking for feedback. Asking your people how they feel, asking your people how you can do better as a leader, you can do better as a company, and what they need from you. But what I would say too is if you haven't created an environment like that, it's going to be very hard for you to get honest feedback. And so some of that starts to look like finding approaches that work with people in order to help them let their guard down. Because if you don't create an environment where people can show up as their authentic self, you will never get feedback on what is going to be helpful, not only to you as a leader, but to your business. And so it impedes the growth of your business, really, ultimately. So how really can you act like a CEO, not just in your business, but in your personal life? And one of the things that I really wanted to stress is creating and prioritizing a vision. And that starts with avoiding the daily grind. So we are natural people to get up and just, get our day going, and then we sit down and we get working. And we often don't take time for reflection. We often don't take time for visualizing, like, in 5 years, what do I want my company to look like? In 5 years, what do I want myself to look like? And how can I be the embodiment of that? And I think one of the other ways on how you act like a CEO that is awesome is keeping good company, including yourself. So if you feel yourself naturally showing up to work and being like, oh my God, this is really hard. Like today is just really hard and everybody is just bothersome to me and I can't. And you hide in your office or you hide behind, your team's status and you just don't talk to anyone and don't express, gratitude, that really is not keeping good company. And so the opportunity to perform like a CEO in your life, like a CEO in your business, even when it's difficult, is there. It helps you do many things. One is create an environment that you love and you crave to show up. And so when you're in your space, right, and you create sort of what this full embodiment of CEO is, and you're able to say, no matter how hard the day is, this is a space that I crave, this is a space that I love, and I truly love the work that I'm doing, you will always have big CEO energy that is positive. And so my question to you is, what are some quick action steps that you can do to start your journey to becoming that big CEO in your life? Sometimes that looks like defining your vision at the very core. What is your vision for your life? The next step would be to take action. It's one thing to write things down. It's another to create a plan, but then you have to put action behind that plan. And then the third thing I would encourage you to do when you are planning out and taking action is to continually audit. Go back continuously and say, what is working? What is not working? Do I feel bogged down because I have to do all the grocery shopping and I have to plan the activities? Well, can we narrow it down to maybe doing it once a month? And can we put some things on auto deliver from Amazon, Thrive Market, whatever? Thrive Market, let me tell y'all, just as a side note, if you all aren't on Thrive Markets, they have so many good things, and it is like an online grocery store. I'll put a link if you guys want to, not sponsored at all. I'm just obsessed. But anyhow, and I also have, my dishwasher pods, my toilet paper, for Pete's sake, all on auto ship. My dog food from Chewy is on auto ship. The only thing that is not is my horse food, which I get points from Tractor Supply, but I could put it on auto. So again, going through, continually auditing your life and really understanding what is working and what is not working. When you start to become the CEO of your own personal life, I promise you, whatever position that you are working in, whether you are running your own business, whether you have employees and you are a CEO of a company, or you are a leader of a company, or you're working for somebody, you're a CEO of every stage of your life. You are in full control. Executive officer, right? That is what a CEO is. And so by executive, it means putting in the actions that will execute you moving your life forward in whatever embodiment that is. So if I have encouraged you today to look to define what your vision is, take action on that vision, and continually audit your life, I'm thankful for that. And I hope that you have understood that you are a CEO of your life. You are a CEO of whatever position in life that you carry in your professional realm. And so I hope that you will take this opportunity to take care of yourself and execute those things in your life that you find are passionate. Until next time. Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you heard something that helped you, I would love it if you would leave a review and share it with your friends. This helps more people just like you become inspired to move the needle of their big CEO energy into a positive direction. If you would like to learn more about how I can help you streamline and position your business for growth or lead your business as a CEO, feel free to jump into the show notes with all of the links to find me. And don't forget to head over to Instagram so we can be pals.